Matthew Ledford here, getting some success clues with Hanna Bederson, my 5 a.m. club friend, buddy, that hosts the weekend 5 a.m. club. And I feel like such a slacker, I got to admit, on the East Coast, rolling into the 5 a.m. club at 8 a.m. Eastern. And all you guys on the West Coast are up like pre-crack of dawn year round, making the 5 a.m. club. And so it is so nice to have you as a guest on my little success clues for realtors especially, but anybody that wants to live a life of greatness and success and to make a difference in their world. And so it's wonderful to have you as my guest.
I'm excited to be here.
Now, I'm going to share just some of your accolades, and then I want you to fill in the parts that you want to share too. The dedication on hosting 5 a.m. club weekends is dedication in and of itself. Joining a mega team in the San Diego market, which is one of the most competitive markets probably on the planet in real estate, is pretty rocking. And then also endeavoring to do 52 hikes in 52 weeks. Tell the folks about that.
And confirming we're recording.
We're live and recording. Yes, we are.
Fantastic. That's very exciting.
And this will be out on YouTube, on my YouTube channel as well. So this is for live and for YouTube.
Very exciting. So to start the conversation, yes, 5 a.m. club has been crucial in my ability to build my business. And then joining a mega team, which is really not a mega team. We started with 25 agents. Now we're up to 40 and we're growing. But it's just the amount of business that we're doing here in San Diego. 1 transaction per day closed in 2020.
Wow, huge.
And one of those things that we've been building is community, systems, and structures. So that's been crucial in my ability to grow my own business.
That's a success clue right there. Community, systems, and structure. Unpack that just a little bit. What does that mean to you, and how does that affect you as an agent in the day-to-day and scaling what you do?
When I first started in the business, I had the concept that I would just go to a big brokerage because the conceptually, you think you're going to be making more money being in a big brokerage house.
Big name.
And quickly you become that you are a single agent in the sea of agents, not really knowing what direction to go. So for anyone who's new in the business, having a team pays you back tenfold because it's having the community, it's learning from people who have been there before, done those things. And also, for example, our team has a daily call, Tuesday through Friday, which is our wins from yesterday, focus for today, 30 seconds or less. And that gives us that encouragement that we need to really go out and build our business successfully. So that's the community aspect. Then you start to get into systems and structures, which means working on your business versus working in your business. Right. And that's the next crucial step to being able to take your business to the next level.
Interesting. I heard success clues there. Daily accountability is a wonderful thing. And we all need encouragement, right? I mean, so making that a part of it with the wins and successes. I do that with my mentees as well. We call it the doing fine by 9 call. Not 5 a.m., but 9 a.m., which is realtor, is still early for some realtors, but being able to check in and look at what are your wins, what are your focus areas, big rocks, as we call them, that you can prioritize. And so those are some great things. And learning in a team from, like the reason I call success clues what it is, Tony Robbins says success leaves clues, right? And being a part of a successful team, you see what other successful people are doing, and then you can often imitate and emulate that. And it's like, wow, that action gets a result. It's kind of cool.
Talk to me about. I think you're 100% right.
Yeah, go ahead.
100% right. And then that allows you not only to build your own business, but to become a leader. What can I teach someone else? What guidance can I give someone else to begin to lift other people up in their journey?
Right. Now, so give your team a shout out, because it sounds like it's an incredible group of people. And I didn't mention their name, but I think we could if you'd like, because it's good to give gratitude to that group. It's a good group of people, sounds like.
Absolutely. So we're with the Active Realty brand out of Corona, California. We are the platinum team here in San Diego, California. And that means we're doing top 1% of the business. So
Amazing.
Active Realty, that's our brokerage. And they have done amazing things through different partnerships and opportunities. We are considered Team Z.
Team Z.
Yep, which is Zandra Ujoa. She is a fantastic leader, just a role model who started this business from the ground up, went full force, committing all of her efforts and energy, and then began to surround herself with people by intention. So team members will go through a rigorous process to even be able to join the team because
Wow.
that community is so valuable.
That's key. Well, and you want to have the right, and I know I get my E-Myth confused with the traction guys, but having the right people on the bus, and the right seats, because sometimes you'll have the right people that have the right heart, that have the vision, and want to run with behind what you're doing in terms of goals, but if they're not in the right seat, then it's uncomfortable for them, but I can see, building a team, you do have to be selective because not everybody is a fit. They may be a great fit somewhere else with a different culture, but being able to have that process. And so you were coming from corporate event management into real estate. Talk a little bit about that transition, because that's juggling like a 6-ring circus, right? Which is probably good training for real estate, right?
So I was a staff member at a construction management firm here in San Diego, California. So we provided both training and political influence. Basically, the concept was keeping construction fair and free for union versus non-union. So within that scope of what I did to help build the membership of the association was also to coordinate all these events, which extends beyond a 9 to 5.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yet you're being paid for a 9 to 5. And I loved that event management. In fact, in the 9 years I was with the association, I coordinated over 100 successful events for contractors.
Wow, that's huge.
And I love that dynamic of every single event being different, every single thing that we're coordinating being different, and seeing the tangible results, which is what drew me to real estate.
Mm,
But real estate opens up the freedom to now set my own schedule, be my own boss,
mm.
control my own destiny.
Right, right. And so really it's amazing. I was thinking driving over here about talking with you about kind of lifestyle by design, because you really seem to be very intentional, and how real estate really helps provide for that. Talk to me a little bit about a lot. I ask my time blocking question to every guest. Are you more of a flow person, or do you pretty disciplined on your time blocking, or talk to me, how do you manage?
So I heard something fantastic on the 5 a.m. club this morning, which is instead of having a to-do list,
Mm,
this is Sharon Srivatsa,
hmm.
instead of having this to-do list, which is our habit of all of these things that I have to do, well, that's nice and dandy, but then you want to translate that into your calendar.
Huge.
So that's a huge thing. And the ability to time block specifically to say, okay, I'm going to be up at 5 a.m. this day. Here's what I intend to do with my time,
Right.
and mapping everything out from start to finish allows you to be more intentional. So,
Right.
in other words, prospecting time needs to go on the calendar.
Right.
Client appreciation needs to go on the calendar, but also social media needs to go on the calendar.
Bingo.
Clubhouse is a new variant within the social media space. So that's calendared. Okay, we're going to be hosting 5:30 to 6:30 Wednesday and Friday. That's on the calendar, and as you go, you can kind of see the trend, because whatever we're doing today, the payoff is in 90 days.
Yeah.
There are no instant results in real estate. So
Success clue.
I can flip my calendar back and see what I was doing 90 days ago to drive the success that I'm achieving today.
Right. It's amazing. I always say there's no such thing as instant fruit in life or in real estate. It's like, okay, you can be pulling on those leaves and you're hoping it's going to bloom and bear fruit, but it's like, okay, there's a process of seed harvest, which is kind of the kingdom biblical principle too, that I'm sure you understand and some of the audience may get. but it's like the 90 days, it is amazing, how what you're doing today will have an effect on your future, for fruitfulness or not so much, and so you mentioned Clubhouse. Little shout out there. You're hosting something there that you might want to share with the audience.
Well, Clubhouse turns out to be a fantastic tool, not only to listen in to conversations, but also to connect. And I'm so sorry to the Android users, that's about 6 months out. So this is
Hang in there, Androids, you'll catch up.
by design, so right now it's iPhone only, and you have to have an invite. So you either have to have someone who sponsors you into Clubhouse or gives you an invite.
Right.
So it's a sponsorship only. But what's exciting is the Clubhouse app is, think of it as an interactive podcast combined with interactive mastermind,
Mm-hmm.
combined with live education.
Yes.
And a conversation. So for example, I've connected with other high performing realtors across the platform. I host Wednesdays and Fridays, 5:30 a.m. We're talking about mastering your morning, winning the day. And
Nice.
my co-moderator, she is just so delightful. She's out of Nashville, Tennessee. And each week we bring a different perspective just for an hour conversation where you can pop in and out of that conversation. We invite people up to the stage, is what
Right.
it's called in
That's a
Clubhouse.
metaphor. Yeah, right.
So for example, today we are talking about habits, trump, inspiration, and motivation. We're
Oh,
not always going to feel inspired or motivated, but we have to set those habits. So one of those questions was, okay, what habits are really helping you?
Hmm.
And what habit are you going to go back and implement this week?
Oh, that's a good question. And good. Thanks for unpacking that was a great, very succinct explanation of Clubhouse for those that haven't discovered it yet. Because it is kind of, I was like, this could be addictive. It could be a problem. And also my phone battery is already dying fast enough. And I'm realizing as I'm listening to more Clubhouses, I'm like, oh, I better have a charger close by because it's very compelling to be able to hop into communities and then to be able to listen to live conversations in real time and then to also be able to contribute, right?
100%. So this goes back to time blocking, that you have to be very intentional with your time.
Mm.
Very intentional. And that's just a strategy and a habit to not let it take over your day. So where you say, oh, I was supposed to prospect at 10 to 11 a.m., but I spent all that time on Clubhouse. You don't want that to happen.
Right.
Because if you look back, okay, so let's say you have no transactions and no business. Well, look back 90 days. Were you using your time wisely 90 days ago?
Hey, let's talk a little bit about, I like to ask about lead generation, lead conversion. And you've mentioned prospecting at least 3 times already, even before we're a quarter of the way into it. And so I would love to hear your prospecting style and your favorite time blocks for that, and some of the successes that you're seeing with that.
Well, so Active Realty is a Zillow preferred partner. In
Cool.
fact, we are the exclusive resale partner for San Diego and Riverside counties. So Zillow is the elephant in the room,
right?
In one regards, because they are very well funded. They're a technology company, but they also realize that at the end of the day, real estate is an agent-to-agent business.
Right.
So a certain amount, so we're taking care of Zillow sellers, Zillow buyers, and Zillow resales. So that's a portion of what we're doing, which means being available to answer your phone.
Answer fast too, right?
And answer fast. And on that note, I'll come back to how important your scripts are. Just knowing instantaneously what you need to do to be able to walk this seller through the process, offer your services, and get that listing signed, because you want to be of service to that particular individual. So when it comes to prospecting, some of that is because we have stepped into the opportunity.
Right.
Now, that's just one area of growth for our business, is those automated leads that are coming in.
Right.
Well,
That's
the
coming in. That's
other
inbound, right?
Inbound, but as you know, and I'll give a question back to you, Matthew. In our market here, inventory is so low. In some areas, it is 0.7 months of inventory. And what that means is not only multiple offers, but it's so emotionally driven with people wanting houses in San Diego
Yeah.
that they're waiving appraisals. They're putting cash into this purchase.
Yeah.
Just to use an example, a house 700,000, my client's offer was 785
Mm. Wow.
and still was not accepted because someone else is at 785 but waived appraisal.
Oh, wow.
So this goes actually right back into prospecting, which is it's fantastic to have those buyers that are working. You're nurturing them, they're going to get ready to buy. Sellers are critical, number one.
Yes.
So
Got to have them.
now we've tailored, and I've tailored my specific prospecting to who is that next seller.
Interesting. And I mean, so many of the Zillow leads. I was on a radio show earlier in the week, and the guy, Randy Kiblin, is Zillow. He's the Zillow guy on their team. And I asked him, I was like, so what is your ratio of buyers to sellers coming in the Zillow funnel? And he's like, well, it's probably 95 to 97% buyers leads that they're getting in there. And I don't know that they're part of that preferred iBuyer program, but if you don't have the inventory, it's like, what are we going to sell these people? The shelves are empty, right? And so being able to locate sellers that are ready, willing, and able, and considering it before anybody else does. Share a little bit about that process, because I know you're not afraid to pick up the phone, even though some people say it weighs 500 pounds some days, and call people.
Well, it's really a fantastic opportunity. So, for example, HomeSnap Pro, which is just a app on your phone, $100 a year, and you can get heat maps. And
Yep.
the heat maps is going to show you within a neighborhood what are your homes that by the algorithm are likely to sell. So we'll use this example. A neighborhood, I just sold and listed a home that sold for 25,000 over asking.
Wow.
So, we're at 615 as a sales price and started right at that 590 price point. So as soon as that house sells, okay, there's my listing. As soon as it sells, that next promotion out to that neighborhood by circle dialing,
Yep.
by door knocking, and by identifying on the heat maps who is the next likely person to list has actually helped fill the pipeline. So
Wow.
for example, just this weekend, we door knocked around one of my other listings and I have 15 new leads in my database. Now,
Wow.
that doesn't mean that's 15 people planning to buy or sell right now, but those are people who answered their door, engaged in conversation. For example, one, she's a lawyer. And she says, thank you for your business card, because now I'm going to pass this on to the other lawyers in the office, because family law is an opportunity for us to possibly partner together.
Yeah.
So then it's the follow-up.
Right.
Sending that person, hey, thank you for the opportunity to talk about real estate. How can I help with your real estate needs? Feel free to reach out. Or putting together a comparative market analysis. That's our next trip out to these doors, is to say, I have something for you. I know you're not planning to move for 3 or 4 more years, but here you go.
Right.
And then being able to have the systems to do some sort of follow-up, set a follow-up flow to consistently follow up, so that 2 years down the line, they know who to come to.
Those are killer success clues, and you guys and the audience and on YouTube need to be taking notes. So, and it's interesting because the yard sign planted in one listing can lead you multiple listings if you cultivate it well. And the clues you were given with circle prospecting and the door knocking and leveraging heat maps and HomeSnap Pro, those are some awesome success clues. And then I think realtors are so funny, and I'm put myself in the category. We may be great at the idea, and then we may be also really good at the implementation of those first steps. But if you don't have the follow-up systems in place, right? Or if you're gathering the leads, but they never get into your database, then you miss the opportunity cost of that, not having the system and kind of that lead conversion net, you may generate them, on the web or by door knocking. But to tell me about like when you're done with the door knocking, what's your workflow getting that into your database and system?
Well, we've just picked up a new fantastic tool as a team, which is Follow Up Boss.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
And a lot of other realtors are using this tool. So Follow Up Boss is just an example
Yeah,
of a CRM.
yeah.
So it's important for me to use my title company to then pull, let's say the address is 123 Main Street.
Hmm.
I right away pull up 123 Main Street to find out who my owner is.
Yep.
I can cross-reference by using another site, maybe to see if I can find a phone number or email. But the best, most effective way is now I have their name and address. I put it into my Follow Up Boss app.
Hmm.
And then on the Follow Up Boss app, you can just click a box that says follow up in 1 week,
Nice.
where it's creating you a task to follow up. So we're in the infancy of working through this tool, but it's just a phenomenal way, because even sellers, there's so much value in staying in touch with that seller.
Right. Right. It's interesting the process that you talk about too, because I mean the traditional old school way of dialing for dollars is often looked at as cold calling, just and not really having a great script or whatever. But being able to get permission, especially when I mean during COVID, knocking on somebody's doors, you don't really know if that's going to cause fear or if they're going to be hospitable. I mean, there's some mind games that we can play with ourselves, even thinking about doing that right now. But getting permission to stay in touch, right? To start a relationship via email, and especially if you get a phone number or a cell phone number, that's a level of trust that you've built, and especially in the face to face. When they I think it's easy for people to hang up on you when you call somebody you don't know, and they'll forget about you. You're just another person interrupting their day, right? But when you're in the field like you are, talk to me about, and I know you do some calling with the circle prospecting. you know how does that script usually go, and then which do you enjoy the most, I guess?
Well, so going back to the circle prospecting, you do need to always filter against the do not call list.
Exactly. Good
And
success.
even when I'm walking to someone's door, so it's not that there's implied permissions, but they've answered their door, they've engaged in conversation.
Right.
So, for example, using the example of the lawyer, I said, would it be okay if I stay in touch with you? Sure, sure, no problem. No problem at all. So going to the phones, I personally call around that listing that is just sold for over market value, because I already have buyers
Yes.
that want to buy that house next door. So the script
Literally.
is really simple,
Yeah.
and it's to provide value. And so I always want to have their name on
Right.
the screen. Okay, hi, Mrs. Jones, are you the owner of 123 Main Street? And she says, yes. Just calling to let you know that your neighbor's house sold 25,000 over asking. Have you had any thoughts of selling your home? Well, uh, maybe 2 years from now. Fantastic. Would it be okay if I put in the mail to you, or if I email you a market analysis?
Mm-hmm.
Just plain and simple. I'm going to draft up a market analysis and get that over to her. So let's open the door to permission.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one form,
Mm-hmm.
is just starting that conversation. Now, it's also important to ask, do you know anybody else who
Mm.
is thinking of buying, selling, or investing in real estate? And then you just shut up and listen.
Yeah.
Because, for example, just this last weekend, there are two neighbors that are going to end up going into a assisted care facility.
Mm.
So it was a neighbor across the street that said, you might want to walk over and talk to them.
Wow. Wow. Cool. Cool. And the neighbors wanting to help. Neighbors want to help neighbors. And one of my things is, I'm challenging my teams and others that I come in contact with, don't forget to love your neighbor today, because we all need it. you know, and some neighbors are harder to love than others. So we need God's help on those, on that front. But, you know, encouraging being a part of the community the way you are. And one of the success clues I'm hearing is what we've called leading with contribution, you know, in other settings. You know, it's being willing to give before you seek to get. You know, it helps pave the way for the relationship, right? Now, there was one story you told me when we talked earlier where you made one call and it resulted in a multiple of transactions. And that was such a cool story. I was like, I need to pick up the phone more often. So can you share a little bit about that, how that process unplayed?
So down here in San Diego, land is hard to come by.
Mm,
So I have a buyer. Okay, she's pre-qualified for $100,000 to buy a piece of land. And I went, okay, this is going to be challenging. So I used the title company. I used heat maps to find this piece of land and picked up the phone and called and reached just this fantastic gentleman out of Los Angeles. And it was his parents' land. Oh yeah, Hannah, we were thinking of selling the land. Now I had to nurture him along. We finally sat down, agreed on a price. So now I'm bringing the buyer and the seller together. We were able to close on that one piece of land. But come to find out, his parents have 6 houses in their portfolio.
mm,
So they're liquidating all in spring of 2021.
wow.
He himself, he's an actor out of Los Angeles, is planning to buy a house. He said, hey, can you represent me in Pasadena? I said, absolutely. Absolutely. Even if I might have to refer it out, but in this case, I'm willing to drive that hour and a half to
Sure.
Pasadena to represent him on the purchase of the house. And then we built this level of trust. But
Right.
there's another layer, which is he just texted me yesterday and said, Hannah, we're making a movie in San Diego. And he's a young Filipino actor, so they're going to be doing this scene on boxing and whatnot. He texts me and says, Hannah, can you come and be an extra in my movie?
Oh, wow. That's cool.
I was like, wow, that's cool. But it's because him and I have built this level of trust. I brought cookies to his mom's doorstep. I follow up every single month. Hey, is there anything you need? How are we prepping to get ready to sell these houses? And it just comes back to you tenfold. So that was a cold call on a random number for a random piece of land right
Right.
here in San Diego.
Oh my goodness. And so one call multiplied into multiple transactions and a really cool relationship,
Yeah.
you know. And one of the things that I share with my mentees, and there are people out there that need your help and they don't know they need your help sometimes until you call them, or they get to know you. And people who are giving and generous, and wanting to be a help in their neighborhood, in their community, and to lead with contribution like you're doing. Man, I wish, you know, we're on the wrong coast. Anybody that delivers cookies to my door, I mean, you get 4 stars in my book, 5 stars.
Yeah, and it's really that human touch.
Yeah.
So that's how I've built my business is just, is there anything you need? If you
Mm,
see their mom passed away on Facebook, reaching out, how can I be of help to you in this time of need? And it's because it's far beyond business.
for sure. Right.
It's that human connection.
So at this point, I mean, how many years are you in? Refresh my memory, because you're a fairly new realtor. You haven't been doing this 40 years, you know, coming from the other career into this career. And your first, what, 5 years?
5 years. Yeah, so May 2021 will be 5 years in the
Wow.
business. My dad is in real estate, so he's still active up in Northern California.
So you were around it even
Yes,
before the event space. So you kind of knew a little bit of what the business was about, right?
right.
And so with that kind of community building, that kind of relationship, I mean, do you have a sense of how much more is coming from your sphere every year in terms of, because you're building your network that is an authentic relationship based network, right? That where you're providing value and, you know, staying in touch with people, and now you're getting even better systems, it sounds like, with Follow Up Boss. But what is your sense of business that's just coming to you now because of the momentum of relationship and referral?
Well, that's an interesting question because another one of my niches has been the ability to overcome circumstances within my
Wow.
own life and things. So to use this example, my husband's 21 years retired Navy, but we started in San Diego. I actually started in real estate up in the Pacific Northwest. So brand new to the city, and here I think I can do real estate in the Pacific Northwest, and I know no one. And it's winter time, so I had to become resourceful.
Mm.
That's the bottom line. When you're a new realtor, you're becoming resourceful and you're working very, very hard. And just yesterday, I received a call from my very first buyer up in Washington who now
Mm.
wants to sell the house.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So
What about that? That's
that
cool.
goes to something that I think we touched on, the power of social media.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because I haven't stayed in contact a lot with this particular individual, but he sees me on social media.
Right.
Just what I'm putting out. Every once in a while, I see his name pop up. So that's really exciting. So it's been building a business. Okay, we have actually moved 3 times in the last 4 years.
Oh my goodness. That's like 3 restarts, right? In terms of the
Three
different markets.
restarts.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so now I'm just a year into this restart, a year and a half into the restart, but now I'm starting to reap the benefits,
Yes.
especially among our military families, because my husband is a Navy vet.
Yeah.
And because that connection that we're able to make, I am a military young family. They bought a home. Before we had even closed on their home, he had given me a referral.
Oh my goodness. How awesome is that?
And in that case, I just will do anything. So that's cookies and gift cards to their doors. Thank you so much for that referral. And sure enough, just this month, another referral has come through
Wow.
to me. So that's one client, one, two, three transactions in just within a 6, 8 month period.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you're doing things right too. I mean, there's so many success clues. I can't even call them all out, man. I mean, you're really dropping a lot of them. It's really amazing because it's like the um, the value that you're providing, having a niche, having an area of focus. I mean, and there are a lot of you're not alone in that. And there are a lot of realtors like, I just moved to a new place and I don't know anybody. What do I do? And you've done it more than once. I mean, so what would you? I mean, you were saying new realtors, have to be resourceful and kind of scrappy. What would you tell those new agents who is like, man, I just relocated to a new place and I don't know anybody. What would you suggest they do in their first 3 to 6 months?
So it's a few things. You really have to choose where you're going to align yourself. Because when I first started in the business, no one in that particular area, Washington, even uses a transaction coordinator. They do it all themselves.
Mm,
So you have to get out of your own way.
good point.
And then just like on the 5 a.m. club that we talk about so often, it's called Singularity of Focus.
Mm, good
And
word.
what does that mean? That is like a magnifying glass coming down to the ground saying, for this period of time, and you want to give yourself probably 3 to 6 to even 9 months, I am going to do nothing but real estate. I'm canceling all my other side projects, gigs,
Right.
experiences, cancel it all. You are canceling it all for that short period of time where you're just going to learn your craft. So it starts by learning your contracts,
Learning the contracts. That's a
going
good
through
point.
that process. But
Yep.
then it becomes being a mentee, just like you talked about, Matthew,
Yep.
a mentee under someone
Yep.
where you're getting a mentorship, you're going on them with them on listing appointments. And if your sphere, if they're not, or your leaders, okay, within the organization are not taking you on listing appointments, that is absolutely critical to be able to shadow somebody and begin learning the scripts, learning the path, learning how to do these things. And then you have to be able to take risks.
Good
Going
point.
back to the story of this gentleman who's selling the piece of land, it was risky for me to call on the phone. And it's even more risky for me to say, well, can I sit down with your parents to talk about sale of this piece of property? That's taking a risk. I've
Yes.
never got that far into the conversation before, but here we go. So it's really, so it's a few things: being resourceful,
Hmm.
focusing on who your mentors are,
Good point.
and taking a risk. And
Good.
that goes for any business.
I agree.
Like, you want to step out and take a risk, because the payoff may not come today, but it's going to come 90 days from now.
It's amazing to me too how many mentors there are, both are in our near space, but you look at what's on YouTube now that we didn't have before YouTube, in terms of both learning scripts and ways of doing listing presentations and being able to choose things that are aligned with your style and personality. You know, in addition to it's challenging kind of with COVID to do listing presentations. A lot of my listing presentations more and more just on the web, just on the phone, and so sometimes it's hard to keep up with bringing a mentee along, every single one of those, but it is the resourcefulness and the focus. I mean, I remember one of Sharon's, I can't remember which morning it was, but it's been fairly recently, everybody wants to grow their business, and that's one of his most frequently asked questions is, how do I grow my business? Right. And he shared, and I shared this with my sphere and my mentoring groups, is that one of the main key for growth is focus and having focus. And so I'm glad that you shared that, because that's a huge success clue, for any business, is to dedicate yourself to it, to learning the craft, and not being distracted, because we all can chase 100 different rabbits in 100 different directions, and then end up with not really achieving anything that we want, right? If we're not careful, it's like, oh, there's so many distractions, shiny objects in real estate are many, for sure, So that's those. Thank you for sharing those. Those are great tips, great success clues.
Yeah, and I'll share one other with you, which is, so basically you want to have your core principles.
Good point.
Okay.
Speak to that. Core principles.
Core principles. And it's just these four things: consistency, organization, resourcefulness, which we talked about,
Mm-hmm.
and effort filled, filling this with effort. So that means you want to be consistent. And a lot of realtors fall into this trap of the shiny objects and doing all
Yeah.
these things. No, you be consistent with the basics.
Fundamentals.
Consistent with the basics and fundamentals. Organized. That doesn't necessarily mean your desk is organized, but you have to have an organized schedule, an organized thought process, an organized way of doing things.
Good point.
Resourceful. Yeah. So a new realtor should not be spending money on anything. They should be driving their business by knocking on doors, making phone calls, shadowing their mentor,
and social.
being resourceful. Yep. Until you can spend the money.
Yeah.
It's fantastic when you can spend the money, but when you're first in the business, it is so crucial to use that resourcefulness. And then effort.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put in the effort.
Those are key core principles that work in any business, but it's a great application into real estate to be able to share. It's interesting, the resourcefulness. One of the things we haven't talked about as much with social, other than Clubhouse, to talk a little bit about your social media endeavors and how, I mean, some of us look at social media and it's like, man, Facebook can be such a time suck. Or I feel like, and I had to basically give myself permission after being on one of our training sessions where one of the mega agents who generates all their leads through social media said, I have to look at content creation as a lead generating activity, that it is lead generation when I'm creating content, when I'm sharing content, when I'm engaging with other people's content. How do you look at the social media world and sphere in your mix and in your routine, your workflow on a weekly basis?
So I'm really beginning to develop this because my team members are developing it. So just to use this example, we were down at Balboa Park here in San Diego. And, he pulls out his phone. Hannah, let's do a live video. And he's getting thousands of views. Well, then we had to take our car to the shop. So my regular mechanic, his name is Sam, and he goes, Hannah, I know you. I saw you on my cousin's YouTube video or his Facebook video. I said, what? That's your cousin? So it's a really interesting, fascinating thing that you have to be intentional with your strategy. Now, what I've learned from Clubhouse is you want to set a 6-month plan. Whatever your posting schedule is, say, can I sustain this exact schedule for 6 months?
Wow.
So I'm starting to develop that. But then another thing is the human to human connection. So for example, Sharon Srivatsa has built the 5 a.m. Club community. So I've hosted over 250 weekend episodes.
Awesome. Success.
That's a community of 6,700 people, 6,700 actively engaging. So then I put out to the group, hey, if anybody wants to sit down for lunch, or let's grab a sandwich to go and sit at the park and do that, or let's go for a hike.
Yeah.
Let's get together. And I'm building relationships, which then means business is flowing back and forth freely.
Right.
And that's just a one-to-one.
Right.
That's nurtured through social media. So there's a lot more to explore. People who are very successful, but it's picking one platform, focusing on that, putting in that effort, and just getting started with that consistency.
6-month plan seems like a forever in internet time. I mean, what does the 6-month plan mean to you? I mean, just being able to be consistent with your frequencies for 6 months.
Consistency and content. Right. Now, fortunately, we're part of a team, so we have team resources that are coming our direction, but it's deciding, here's what's working. Have to test and iterate and say, here's what's working. Let me do more of that.
Right. I like that. Well, and then having that you can flow with. I know we're coming up on the quarter of the hour and we've been talking so much. Usually I open for questions before now, but I want to give the audience a chance to ask Hannah any questions either about the 5 a.m. Club or real estate in San Diego or any of these other areas. I'll be watching in chat, or you can turn your video and camera on. Well, that's fascinating. We'll watch and see what comes up with that. Tell me about, while we're getting the questions coming in, hosting 200 plus weekend 5 a.m. club. That's a commitment, and there's fruit. I mean, you talked a little bit about some of the fruit from that, the relationships that are already developing for lunches and hikes and that kind of thing. And also your commitment to do 52 hikes, one a week, has inspired me. I'm like, that's a pretty cool goal. I might need to get that on my bucket list.
Well, and now there's a hashtag that probably already existed, but it's a hashtag 52 hike challenge.
Oh, sweet. And you're in it.
And I'm in it. I'm getting started because I'm on a hike number 7. And so going to the 5 a.m. club. Well, that comes out of my own story. I may have mentioned, when we were talking prior to the interview, I intended to be a marine biologist. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to become a marine biologist. I could not get up in the morning and therefore could not pass chemistry and biology. So first year,
labs,
because of my inability to be able to get up on time.
Wow.
So in 2018, someone introduced me to the 5 a.m. club, and I jumped on that first call and went, wow, this is just fantastic, because it's 5 a.m., but it's also storytelling. It's also that one little takeaway. I wrote on my vision board, host one episode of the 5 a.m. club.
Oh, wow. Just one at that point.
Just one, because they have guest hosts every Wednesday. And I hopped on that mic. I'm not sure how I sounded, how it came across, but Sharon texted me and said, you're really good. You are really good. I said, well, is there an opening for another day? He says, well, how about Saturday? Now, full disclaimer, I had never been able to wake up earlier than 8 o'clock on a Saturday.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow. That's putting yourself out there.
But so there's two things that were discovered through this process. So I came on that first Saturday and I said, I love hearing the voices from across the world
Really across the
now.
world, right? A ton of countries.
Ton of countries, including the Czechoslovakia Republic. So, for example, just 2 weeks ago, I connected on Clubhouse with a gentleman named Martin. He's been listening for 2 years on the
Wow.
weekend from the Czech Republic, 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And wow. Well, so what we discovered is two things. When you plan to become a high achiever and you set a goal, I'm going to do this 5 days a week. Well, Sharon and his mentor discovered if you're leaving out the weekend time, that's 20% of your time that's gone.
Right.
So that's the first thing. Second thing is there is a unique culture of people who get up early on the weekends.
Yes, this is very true.
It's just a matter of fact. So it's been engaging with that and mentoring those individuals on this call to say, here's the one thing you can do if you're having a hard time.
It's
Here's
good.
the one thing you can do with your weekend to enhance your productivity, which ties directly to business.
That's awesome. Well, and I love all the days of the week, but I especially do look forward to hearing you on the weekends. I've got to say, I mean, and one of the things that helps me be reminded to do as well. And a lot of us high achievers, I mean, one of the dangers of being a high achiever is you can also be a workaholic, and not give yourself a Sabbath, not give yourself a rest. And, for you to be able to remind us each week that we need that. Our body needs it, and it's part of how we're made to need it, and so I so appreciate that, and you sharing that with us consistently pretty much every weekend. I don't know that I've missed, I've heard, as well as setting the tone for the coming week. Tell me, share a little bit with this audience that weekly routine that you encourage, especially on Sundays, to be well set for the coming week.
You're absolutely right, because it doesn't matter if you're taking a Saturday off, you want to be intentional. So I calendar my Saturdays.
Good.
I calendar my Saturdays. Now we throw in that hike in the morning, which is great. So it's basically host the call. I'm out the door by 5:15 to do a hike from 6 to 8.
Nice.
So I've been really intentional to not hit the snooze button, not go back to sleep. I'm going to focus, and then I'm going to have breakfast with my family.
Love it. Love it.
Then I have some prospecting that takes place on Saturdays or listing appointments or whatnot. But instead of binging on Netflix,
Right.
you have to say, today I'm choosing to put my family first. Now, when it comes to Sundays, 3 crucial things. And I learned this from Darren Hardy,
Yep.
actually. Darren Hardy was one of the original mentors that said, do your Sunday planning.
Mm-hmm.
And that involves sitting down and reflecting, how did I do last week?
Yep.
Okay, what were my wins from last week? What's going to be my focus for the week ahead? And writing everything on the calendar.
So reflecting.
Yes.
Focusing ahead, and then calendaring.
And then calendar. Now, Brendan Bouchard is another teacher on this subject. And what I've learned listening to Brendan is the fact that you need then to start eliminating things from your calendar.
Wow. Yeah. There's a lot of wisdom there, right?
So you look over and say, what is these things that don't fall into sequence with what I want to accomplish within my next week?
Right.
So you start eliminating things. So for example, I've completely cleared my Fridays.
Wow. Really?
No meetings, nothing is going to happen on a Friday, because that's time for listing appointments. That's time for administration. Maybe that's time to take a morning off, but I leave that day completely open on the calendar.
That's awesome purpose.
And it just gives you margin, and it gives you peace. So it's that. So number one is planning the week ahead. Number two is practicing your faith.
Yes.
Practicing your faith. And So myself as a believer, it's important to either watch church on Zoom.
Zoom
We are now
church.
fellowshipping in person. So we have the outdoor tent set up so we can go to church in person, reading the scriptures. But even if you're an atheist, okay, take the time to walk outside, meditate, do something to practice your faith on Sunday is so, so critical. Like you said about the Sabbath.
Mhm.
And then last is showing kindness.
Huge.
So who is that one person I can reach out to on a Sunday to say I've been thinking about you?
Mm. That's loving your neighbor right there. You
Loving
know,
your neighbor.
almost a great place to wrap it. I mean, it's so many great success clues, Hannah. I knew this was going to be just chock full. So many that I wasn't going to be able to highlight them all. Because usually I'll try to say, oh, there's a success clue, write that down, especially for my mentees, if they didn't catch it. And so it really has been just rich, to have this more expanded format, to be able to see your face and be able to chat with you a bit. Because on the phone, you're like, okay, I don't know if everybody's awake and their hair is going different directions, and it's kind of fun to imagine people all over the world dialing into that call, and usually I'm out walking the dog in Charleston, South Carolina. And most of the time I come in so late or so close to the top of the hour that I don't even get to announce myself because it's like, oh, it's right there. Okay, I'm dialing now, so it's wonderful to be able to do that. What's the best way for people to reach to you if they want to get in touch, either about business, about 5 a.m. Club? Share with that with the people.
So my full name, so I like to go by Hannah B now. This has been fun.
Hannah
I'm
B's a good
Hannah B,
brand.
your host. But my full name is Hanna Bederson. So you spell it out, Hanna, last name Bederson, on any platform. And I'm fortunate to have a unique enough name. So if you put my name into Google, you'll pull me up right away. But it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn is a new one.
Yes.
Connect with me on Clubhouse. Clubhouse is just an exciting thing. And my phone number is published.
So you can
That's
text or
that's a
call.
that's a
I mean,
number to
all
reach
these
me.
channels. No
So you
excuse
can,
for being a stranger.
yeah, because the truth is someone wants to be able to click on your picture in Facebook and look down, okay, how can I contact you about my real estate needs? And it's Facebook Messenger is a great way to reach me, or to just pick up the phone and text the word 5 a.m. club.
Yeah, awesome. That is so cool. That is so cool. Well, Hannah, anything else you want to share before we wrap?
No, this has been an exciting opportunity. I just love the opportunity to have the conversation and really encourage other people as
Yeah,
they're building their business that you don't have to go it alone. I think that's the biggest message from today
yeah,
is you don't have to do it alone.
right. That's huge. That's a great message. And you've shared so many tips and being part of a team, part of a community, relocating 3 times in a short span, really essentially restarting the business, but taking the fundamentals, applying the consistency and the determination and the scrappiness but obviously the loving your neighbor relationship skills that when you get to know people, you really do care about their lives and helping them in the journey, and so I think they see that, and they appreciate that. And I appreciate that about you very much. And so thank you for being a guest with the Success Clues little webinar. It'll be on YouTube probably here in the next couple of days. We'll be sharing it with folks. And just want to say what a pleasure it is to have you as our guest. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me, Matthew. And I look forward to keeping in touch and talking soon on the 5 a.m. club.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll be seeing you hopefully there tomorrow morning and even this weekend as you're hosting. So we can't wait. Love it. Thanks so much.